All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. It is that time of the week, folks. My weekly picks in the world of the National Football League. Got this week started on the right foot. I picked the Dallas Cowboys to defeat the New York Giants last night. I said Cowboys 27, Giants 20. However, of course, we know it was Cowboys 20, Giants 15. The Giants were able to move the football against the Dallas Cowboys defense, but in this current National Football League, you can't consistently settle for field goals when you get in the red zone and expect to come out on top. The Giants had to rely on 5 field goals to keep them in the contest. While they were doing that, Dallas was scoring touchdowns, and that was one of the biggest differences in the game. But nonetheless, we've got some good games on tap for Sunday, as well as another doubleheader on Monday night. And with that said, here are my picks for week number 4 in this NFL season. I want to get started with a showdown in the NFC South as you have the 2-1 New Orleans Saints traveling to take on the 1-2 Atlanta Falcons. And for New Orleans, they tasted defeat for the first time last season at home, courtesy of the Philadelphia Eagles. But for me, I'm going to circle this game as a potential revenge game for the Falcons. And the reason why I say it is this: I know that the Falcons have a different coaching staff from last season, but you go back to the end of last season, week 18 to be exact, and the Saints ran up the score on the Falcons at the Superdome. And then on top of that, we know about the controversy on that final play when basically the Falcons expected the Saints to take a knee. The game was out of hand, and the Saints are going out there going to score touchdowns. And I guarantee you, you got some of those Falcons players on this team that have not forgotten that. You got a new quarterback in Kirk Cousins has given this offense some life. The Saints are playing better in comparison to last season. I think this is going to be a fun game. You look at it like this: if you're Atlanta, you cannot fall that far behind in the AFC South or the NFC South, excuse me, while New Orleans is looking to solidify their situation. I think this is going to be a back and forth affair, but I'm going to take Atlanta at home by the score of 24-20. Now at Soldier Field, you're going to have the 1-2 Chicago Bears hosting the 1-2 Los Angeles Rams. And for the Bears and rookie quarterback Caleb Williams, I know that a lot of people are saying and wondering, when is this offense going to get it going? I'll tell you like this: the Bears have faced some darn good defenses through their first 3 games of the season. Nonetheless, they want to try to get it going against the Rams. But first things first, they got to go out there and they need more balance on offense. They got to get their run game going. But then I'm also looking at this Bears defense. What are they going to be able to do against veteran quarterback Matthew Stafford? The Bears come into this contest favored by 3 points at home. Sean McVay is going to have his Rams ready to win, ready to play rather. But when it's all said and done, I'm going to take Chicago at home by the score of 24-23. Now at Lambeau, you got the 3-0 Minnesota Vikings taking on the 2-1 Green Bay Packers. Packers quarterback Jordan Love, as of right now, is questionable for this game for Green Bay, but in his place, Malik Willis continues to get better and better game by game. On the flip side, for the Vikings, we have seen the resurrection of the career of quarterback Sam Darnold. And then on top of that, this Vikings defense, under the guidance of defensive coordinator Brian Flores, they are getting after people, plain and simple. You look at this game, there is no love lost between either of these teams. And I think this is going to be kind of Hatfield and McCoy's type situation between Green Bay and Minnesota. The Pack comes in favored by 4 at home. The over under is 43.5. And I'm going to take Green Bay over Minnesota by the score of 24-20. They got the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to take on the 1-2 Indianapolis Colts. And it has not been pretty so far, but the Steelers continue to win. You look at this rock solid Steelers defense, and I'm going to tell you like this: if you got the Steelers on your fantasy team, I would say start them in this game because they're going to go out there and they're going to get after Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson. And of course, we've seen Anthony Richardson be very sloppy with the football in his brief NFL career. And if this Colts offensive line cannot slow down TJ Watt and company, they're going to come after him. Maybe not to sack him because Anthony Richardson is a physical specimen, but to go out there and make him uncomfortable and allow him to probably make some mistakes. You look at the Steelers offense, it continues to be a work in progress, but as the weeks go on, we are seeing Justin Fields look more and more comfortable in this system. The Steelers are favored by 2.5. I think this is going to be a typical Steelers type win. It's not going to be pretty, but I'm going to take Pittsburgh to get the 20-16 victory. Now at MetLife Stadium, you've got the 2-1 New York Jets hosting the 1-2 Denver Broncos. And for the Jets, they've been looking better week by week themselves, especially this offense under the guidance of quarterback Aaron Rodgers. They're going to face a very good Broncos defense come Sunday afternoon, and they're going to face a Broncos team that has confidence because they just picked up their first win of the season last week on the road against the Bucs. But I'm looking at Broncos rookie quarterback Bo Nix going up against this Jets defense under the watch of head coach Robert Saleh. That is not a matchup to me that favors in the direction of the Broncos. Like I said, the Jets have been getting better. They're favored by 7.5 at home, and I'm taking the over in that one. I'm going to take New York by the score of 31-17. Now, in a rematch of a wild card battle last year, you got the 2 Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting the 2-1 Philadelphia Eagles. And of course, if anybody remembers that wild card game last year, the Bucs simply ran the Eagles off of the field down in Tampa. The Eagles return to the scene of the crime, and they are hopeful that their newest acquisition can be a difference maker for them. And I'm talking about running back Saquon Barkley. What is this Eagles offense going to be able to do against this Bucks cover two? That's going to be a big thing. And will this Eagles defense find a way to slow down Baker Mayfield and company on offense for Tampa? The Eagles come into this contest favored by 2. Of course, they have not forgotten last year's playoff game. Neither have the Bucks. And I think this has the potential to be one of the better games on Sunday afternoon. But I'm going to take Philly on the road by the score of 27-20. Now in Charlotte, you've got the winless Cincinnati Bengals traveling to take on the 1-2 Carolina Panthers. And of course, Carolina got off the schneid last week in dominating fashion against the Raiders. And they look like a different team with veteran quarterback Andy Dalton at the controls. And of course, when you think about Andy Dalton, of course, he has spent the bulk of his NFL career with the Cincinnati Bengals, multiple division titles there, multiple trips to the postseason. Granted, a lot of the faces that Andy Dalton was around in Cincinnati have changed since then, but nonetheless, I guarantee you a veteran player like that always wants to go out there and shine his best against his former employer. On the flip side, for the Cincinnati Bengals, they've been hard luck losers so far as they have continuously gone out of their way to lose games that they should have won. Pick your poison. One week is the offense, next week is to the defense, and at the end of the day, the Bengals are just shooting themselves in the foot. The Bengals are favored by 4.5 points in this contest, but I'll tell you like this: after what I saw from Carolina last week, they look like a different team under with Andy Dalton at quarterback. It feels like a weight has been lifted off of them. The Bengals are feeling the pressure, and because of that, I'm going to take Carolina at home by the score of 20-17. Now, another AFC South battle is you have the winless Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to take on the 2-1 Houston Texans. Houston comes into this contest favored by 6. They're looking to get back on track after they were run off the field last Sunday, courtesy of the Minnesota Vikings. Speaking of getting run off the field, we just saw Jacksonville get embarrassed on Monday night, courtesy of the Buffalo Bills. I think that one of the biggest differences in this game is going to be the quarterbacks. CJ Stroud looks more comfortable at the moment at quarterback, and he looks more the part. I can't say the same for Trevor Lawrence, as he just seems to be a young man that is going through the motions. I also expect this Houston defense to get back on track at home and put the pressure on Trevor Lawrence. And when you think about this Houston defense coming after Lawrence, I think that is going to lead to some turnovers by Lawrence and this Jaguars offense. Thus, I'm going to take Houston at home by the score of 30-20. Now, out in the desert, you got the 2-1 Washington Commanders traveling to take on the 1-2 Arizona Cardinals. I think this game has the potential to be very fun. You got Jaden Daniels returning to the state where his college career began before winning the Heisman at LSU. He began his college career at Arizona State. We've seen in the brief stages of this early NFL season the duo of quarterback Kyler Murray and rookie wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. for the Cardinals, and we see that this combination will be a force this year in the National Football League. For Jaden Daniels, it's one of those where his athleticism is just taking over. This young Washington Commanders team is believing in him. And speaking of wide receiver and quarterback duos, Terry McLaurin is no slouch at wide receiver. And I expect him to have a big game in this contest for Washington. Arizona comes into this contest favored by 3.5. I think this is going to be a back and forth affair. And the last team that possesses the football will win. But I'm going to take the Birds at home by the score of 31-30. Now in Santa Clara, you got the 1-2 San Francisco 49ers hosting the 1-2 New England Patriots. San Fran is heavily favored over the Pats in this one by 10 points. But the biggest question is going to be, will the real 49ers show up? We saw them lose a couple of weeks ago in Minnesota to the Vikings. And then, of course, last week on the road at SoFi against the Los Angeles Rams. We know that the Niners are dealing with some injuries right now. Of course, still no Christian McCaffrey at running back, but Jordan Mason is playing his part. For me, the biggest thing has to be this Niners defense. They have not been nasty to begin this season, and that is going to be big and telling for this team. I'll tell you like this: the Patriots have a lot of issues on offense, and if you are the Niners, this is a team to get right against. And I'm going to take San Fran at home by the score of 27-13. Now in Vegas, you've got the 1-2 Raiders hosting the 1-2 Cleveland Browns. Cleveland comes into this contest favored by 2.5 points over the Raiders. This line has changed due to the fact that the Silver and Black have a lot of injuries going into this game. No Max Crosby rushing the passer, no Devontae Adams at wide receiver. You got two teams that are desperate for a win. The Browns offense has not looked good all season long. And for the Raiders, they took it on the chin last week, courtesy of the Carolina Panthers. But if I read Antonio Pierce right, he's going to have his team ready to go at home after what happened last week against Carolina. Max Crosby or not, I think this team is going to be ready to go. And I'm going to take the Raiders by the score of 24-20. Now at SoFi, you've got the 2-1 Los Angeles Chargers hosting the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City comes into this game heavily favored. They're favored by 7.5, and that's to be expected. They have a phenomenal team, but more importantly, you look at the Chargers. They're dealing with injuries and suspensions right now. I don't think that you're going to see Joey Bosa in this game. I think if you see Justin Herbert at quarterback, he's going to be limited. And then on top of that, no Derwin James at safety, as he's been suspended by the National Football League. It's an uphill battle to knock off the Chiefs when you're fully staffed. And now the Chargers are going to have to try to do it without some of their big guns. And when it's all said and done, I'm going to take the Chiefs by the score of 27-17. Now on Sunday night, it's a showdown in the AFC as you have the undefeated Buffalo Bills traveling to take on the 1-2 Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore got their first win of the season last week over the Dallas Cowboys. It wasn't pretty, but at the end of the day, pretty does not matter. You look at both of these teams, two of the better running quarterbacks in the NFL. Of course, Josh Allen for Buffalo and Lamar Jackson for the Ravens. But for me, I think this Baltimore defense needs to go out there and try to set the tone, something that they have not been able to do all season long. A lot of the names have changed for Buffalo since last year, but this team continues to roll on. You still got Sean McDermott as your head coach, and you've got Josh Allen playing like an MVP in the early stages of this season. Baltimore is favored by 2.5 at home. I think the Ravens do take care of their business, and I'm going to take Baltimore by the score of 24-20. Now, on Monday night, the first half of the doubleheader begins in South Florida when you got the 1-2 Miami Dolphins hosting the winless Tennessee Titans. Miami comes into this game favored by a point, and somebody's got to win it. You look at Tennessee; it's really has not been pretty on offense with second-year quarterback Will Levis running things, and of course Miami. They're still without Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback. Looks like it's going to be Skylar Thompson, and he's got to rely on the talent around him. The bottom line is which head coach, okay, Brian Callahan for the Titans or Mike McDaniel for the Dolphins, is going to have his quarterback prepared to play the most. It's not going to be a pretty game, but I'm going to take Miami at home by the score of 16-13. And finally, the second half of the Monday night doubleheader is in the Motor City as you have the Detroit Lions with a record of 2-1 hosting the undefeated Seattle Seahawks. And you look at this contest, the Lions are favored at home by 3.5, but the Seahawks have had their number in recent years in Detroit. The last couple of years, matter of fact, each time Seattle has gone on the road and knocked off the Lions. You look at this Seahawks team, and it's kind of like they haven't skipped a beat transitioning from longtime head coach Pete Carroll to Mike McDonald. They have a get after you attitude on defense, and that's going to be interesting because they have to find a way to put that pressure on quarterback Jared Goff and his Lions offense to try to throw off their timing. Geno Smith just simply appears to play some of his best football against the Lions in the stadium at Ford Field. I know that Detroit is favored by 3.5 at home, but I'm going to take Seattle on Monday night by the score of 24-23. And folks, those are my picks for week number 3, or week number 4, rather, excuse me, in this NFL season. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.